All right, so it's been a while since we've done this. So back in the studio doing podcasts for the first time in a while. In the studio with me today is Aenir, also known as Chris Oro. I want to say, I'm pretty sure.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
it's close enough. You're good.
I barely know my player's name half the time. Anyway, we are the running back duo in San Jose, and we're here to talk about San Jose stuff, league stuff as a whole, but let's just start with, how are you?
I'm doing good, was a little worried about this podcast. We had the lost episodes, which was filled with stuff that you listeners shall never know about.
It's not my fault that everything got deleted. It actually isn't. The bot I was using to record before got deleted. The user stopped taking care of it. So they deleted all the recordings and they deleted the bot from existence. So that was fun. So now I have Craig. Craig's pretty cool. He talks like a robot.
He is a robot.
He is a robot.
There you go.
But so let's get on with it, because nobody wants to hear us talk pleasantries. They're here to talk about football. So we had our first, before we get into that, let's dive into the Sabercats and their offseason that we had. We obviously came into this season being the worst team in the league with one win over the entire year. It would be embarrassing to lose to a team like that. But one win all year last year, so we had to make some serious moves this offseason. So what do you think was our biggest move coming into the offseason here?
I think the trade was the big one. Got a couple of really good players. They want to be here. And I know their activity should tick up a little bit because, to my knowledge, and I'm not sure, I believe they're teammates in some other leagues. So when you're on a team with people you already know you work with, your activity picks up a little bit more.
Yeah, it should. It was kind of funny. I don't know if anybody else noticed. They probably didn't. We drafted a whole bunch of people and traded for a whole bunch of people because they were super active, and then basically none of the people we acquired in the offseason updated for the first week. So Pikachu face on that one. God, I love that meme.
Did you see the one that's making fun of Stalin?
No.
Oh, I'll link that to you when I find it. So we'll keep talking.
Fine. Yeah. This is not PewDiePie's meme review. This is Sweetwater's talking about fake football bullshit. But anyway, so yeah, we made huge, obviously first pick overall in the draft. Tried to make some draft moves. Picked up some, we'll call them less than popular figures.
Okay,
but
I have it right here. We have San Jose gives up season 13 first, season 13 second, season 14 first. Nate Piazza, Adrian Pitcher, and Chambers the third. I'm not going to try to pronounce that first name.
Calculated.
Yeah.
I know it looks like cakewalked, but it's calculated. Just
spelled
really, really. Yeah, it's spelled really weird.
Calcawatted or something.
Yeah.
For Chad Pennington and Thad Pennington.
Yes.
And they retained $2 million of the season 12 salary for that one.
Yes, that was a big deal. It was the only way we could really pull off that trade. But, I think talking with some of the higher ups in our group, talking with our GMs and stuff, and really just talking with the team as a whole, you'll notice that this was between, if you look at it, this past draft was the past two in a row were the strongest drafts we've had in a long time, with a whole bunch of recreates coming out. But the last draft was the strongest for a long while. And this upcoming one, less so, because while there are some recreates coming out, some of the guys who were expected to recreate are not recreating right now. Most notably would be TLK, aka Smallwood, who has gone semi-inactive due to real life taking a toll on him, and I wish him the best and all of that. But so we really don't have a big roster here. So San Jose saw it as a chance to make a big move. And obviously we did. We got two 700 TPE linebackers. Were they both linebackers? Or was one a safety?
I'm not sure about that one, because as people who have been paying attention to the league know, my activity's not been where I've wanted it to be, but I'm trying to bring it back up.
Yeah, you should probably pay a little bit of attention. I'm confirming it right now on our roster that Chad is a linebacker and Thad is a free safety. And that was a big deal because we lost a safety, but got him back kind of with the recreate from CK Royal, the GM. So we had to draft him. He liked playing a safety, so we picked him up again. He plays our strong safety, but that was really good move there to get a free safety to, take care of that, clean it up. So the defense, honestly, kind of overnight between drafting a defensive end up front, drafting some other big names. We traded for Benson Bailey, who was a CB who's playing our slot CB. It's basically a 1-year rental, which is fine.
And he was on the team before. And
yes, he was on the team
heavily,
before. We drafted him originally.
Regressing? Like this is his last year?
Yeah, this is his last year. It's a 1-year rental. And he will be recreating. But he is 2 years out from recreating, or from getting into the NSFL. So not that big of a deal to miss out on this draft. Now, looking at it, but if you look at it, we went from a single active linebacker and from 2 cornerbacks, a single active linebacker, a single active defensive line person, and a single active safety to 2 fully active safeties, 2 fully active cornerbacks, 3 fully active linebackers, 3 fully active defensive linemen, with 1 inactive that's at a high enough threshold where he can actually get along and make an impact on the team. Because as we know, defensive tackles don't need a ton to be as effective as they can be, as they don't really do all that much. You just need someone to kind of stuff the run. You can throw them in at 1 tech and stuff the run.
Yeah, make them fat, make them strong, and you're good.
Yeah,
some endurance, but they're just there to eat up blockers.
Especially since most of the league runs nickel or 3-3-5 anyway. That's just generally how it's going to work. But that's good. We made a defensive scheme switch because of that. But right now we're the number 1. We went from the worst defense in the league to right now points wise the best defense in the league, and honestly, what's looking up to be one of the best defenses just in general. I mean, if we look at what?
According to the index, we are 4th in the conference, 6th in the league in overall yards given up. Led 402, 3-3 for 96 yards rush per game.
Yes,
and
but
then 306
the
passing.
the league index does not take into account situational football or what's going on.
I know.
Our offense was almost never was off the field a significant amount of time. Even though we had a higher time of possession, which is true, we did. They had more series for more plays than our offense did, which put together 2 or 3 6-minute drives, which just soaks up clock. But especially because our defense turned 2 of those into touchdowns. Right now, we lead the league in tackles for loss, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions, we're second in pass defenses and first in defensive touchdowns. Obviously, it's 1 game. We can't extrapolate a lot from that. But
says you, I'm extrapolating this all the way. Ultimate baby.
Obviously, we are going to end. We can only assume that we're going to end the year with 28 tackles for loss, 20 whatever 7 times or 14 times 3 is, forced fumbles, and just multiply everything by 14. You know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
28 defensive touchdowns is a big deal, you guys. There's going to be so many. I hope you picked San Jose defense. In all honesty, I hope you picked San Jose defense in your fantasy league because that's going to pay off in big dividends. But, you don't really see a ton of this worst to first kind of defense stuff in the NSFL as much. And it's nice to kind of see a little bit of parity starting to show up.
All homerism aside, let's wait to see what happened. I mean, we were at home. And as we all know, the sim loves them some home cooking. But
that's true. And it was against the New Orleans second line, who was predicted to be the worst in the ASFC this year, only because They traded away a bunch of guys. They had a whole bunch of guys have to recreate due to regression. They got hit hard. They were a team made up of a whole bunch of, S2 through like 5 guys who really, really, really started getting hurt when time came for regression. But, looking forward, things are looking good for San Jose. The big win was helpful. Jameis Christ showing up, or Joliet Christ, not Jameis Christ. Joliet Christ showing that he can really take care of this offense, that now that he's got a defense who can hold up and he's not forced to be on the field nonstop, he can sling the ball with the best of them. 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 109.6 rating. That's pretty good. He's got 2 killer offensive linemen, or 2 killer receivers in Flash and Oles. Flash putting up 3 touchdowns. That's insane. Brannigan being a solid safety valve, and even you with coming out of the backfield. Oros is low key killing it. He's
it was funny because in the Sabercats Discord, I was watching the game and I was 10 back. I was like, have I done anything? And I felt okay asking because we were ahead. So I was like, oh, awesome.
Sure.
And there was nothing yet. But as soon as I typed that, I had like 4 carries in a row and then like 4 receptions. So 8 touches on the game.
4 carries for 16 yards. Not bad. Nothing killer, but not bad. 5 receptions for 80. Oh, nope, that's Oles. 4 receptions for 20 yards. Also not bad. Respectable for someone who's kind of relief / other. But then the big one is also 2 pancakes. I mean, you're running that fullback route. We've got you in it slotted as a second tight end. We use you out of the slot sometimes. Like, things are getting cool. And
I've maxed my speed and I've maxed my hands. Got to work on
you're power backing it, and you're that safety valve in the flat if that existed in this game. The sim does some interesting things. But we've talked about the Sabercats a whole lot. Why don't we start taking a look around the league at some of the other games? What do you think was the most interesting game from this week?
Sabercats.
I know you're gonna homer that one.
Yes,
I think the one to pay attention to was the Outlaws Wraiths game, just because it was close and it was 2 teams that we weren't quite sure how things were gonna play out. Both quarterbacks are remarkably similar, maybe not in TPE, but in actually kind of in TPE. They had if I'm remembering correctly, they had a pseudo rivalry, unless I was looking at Showbiz. But Fitzpatrick and Applehort are almost 2 halves of the same coin. I mean, Fitzpatrick threw 20 of 31, Applehort threw 22 of 32. Completion percentage of both about 50%, or of about 66%. Both, 200 yards to 240. Both had an interception, 1 touchdown to 2. That's kind of a fluke stat because there was other touchdowns scored elsewhere. But they were 2 teams that are seen as the middle to lower middle of the pack guys who are just kind of fighting for it.
Well, and this is just me, coming from a personal perspective. Hurts to see Yellowknife down that low. I know they're on the bounce back. I still got a soft spot for them. They started my playing career in this league. But I think I speak for everyone in that, I think we'd all like to see Arizona and the Otters go to the cellar for the next 10, 20 seasons. Yeah,
the Otters have been consistently good for the entirety of the league for the most part. They've never really had a super down year. That does help that they had the freaking Tom Brady of this league for the longest time in Mike Boss.
No, and that's the funny thing, because I remember season 1, it was a discussion like Mike Boss may not even be on the team, may not even be playing quarterback.
Right. And they drafted like 8 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but that's going way back when, season 1.
Oh yeah. No, that man knows how to make a quarterback, and he's already, he remade and then went inactive and then got drafted and then retired. So I guess he's done with the league.
Yeah, at least for now.
Yeah.
Could be just taking a break. That's what I did after my quarterback retired.
That's what I did.
Season 2 of break.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's good to take a break. Sometimes you need something else to do. So yeah, Outlaws Wraiths, that one was kind of a coin flip in my mind as to what it was. And if you look at the scoreboard, until the fourth quarter, it was a coin flip. You know, Outlaws and Wraiths swaps kicking a field goal and scoring a touchdown. I mean, it really was the pick six by Bly Jr. is kind of set the stage for it, but wasn't actually what won them the game. It was kind of a fluke win almost. I mean, it's home field advantage. There you go. It strikes. But looking around the rest of the league, we had the big matchups were the Liberty versus the Hawks, which actually was a super interesting one until it, for the first 10 seconds of the game. I don't know if you watched it live or not.
I did not. I only watched the.
Oh man! Coming into that game, everybody saw that one being a coin toss. I don't know if everybody saw it, but if you looked through the predictions, it was about 50-50 Liberty or Hawks. Liberty had home field advantage, so people were picking them over it. They had an up-and-coming quarterback. They had a strong running back. They had a good, decent offensive team. And they were considered to have one of the better secondaries, especially the last year. Their defense was killer, and they really only kind of got better on paper.
Oh, yeah.
However, after some chirping from the Liberty players starting the game off, we saw immediately a fumble, and then that turned into a touchdown, and then an interception, and then that turned into a touchdown. And then, it was insane. It was absolutely insane. I'm going to go to the play-by-play so I can remember correctly. But, so yeah, fumble turns into a touchdown. Interception returned to the goal line, rush for a touchdown. Then another interception on the next play. It was insane. It was hard to describe just how crazy it was. The fact that the first play after that fumble that turned into a touchdown was an interception that was turned into a touchdown. And then the next play was an interception that was a pick that was stopped at the goal line and turned into a touchdown again. I mean, it's just something you don't really see in the league that often, is rapid fire defensive things, and something I don't think almost anybody expected, just because of the teams were seen as relatively equal, all things considered.
Oh yeah, and the funny thing is I'm looking at this and I'm like, just on the points, 28 points at home, nice even touchdown a quarter, especially at home with a decent defense, that should be enough. It's just the Hawks, holy cow.
I don't know if that's enough in this league anymore, though. I really don't. The league has so little defense really anymore. Look at the scores. We had losing teams this week scored 28, 24, 20, and 16. Now, 20 and 16, I see those losing. 28 and 24 theoretically shouldn't be losing, but 31 was the lowest score that somebody won by this week.
Yeah.
And
we'll
that's
see.
a pretty high scoring.
We'll see how that goes, but
right.
What's the traditional thought that at the beginning of the season the offenses have the advantage because the defenses haven't gotten into rhythm yet?
I mean, in real football, yes. I don't know how that.
You're killing the illusion.
I know, but we have to keep it within the context of the game we're actually playing, because yes, in real life, defenses have to get into the rhythm. Offenses have the advantage; they can pick things apart. Defenses haven't seen the offenses pull out all their stops yet. You can still surprise them. You can give them different stuff. Theoretically, that should work both ways, though, because the defenses can start giving different looks or whatever. But
I mean, how many looks can you get in a defense? It's more limited versus the looks an offense could give you.
Sure, absolutely. But this sim doesn't follow any of those rules, so we just kind of have to take things at face value, assuming that all teams will improve throughout their time there. The teams that will improve the most are defenses that have lower TPE, because they get a quicker gain on their important stats. Whereas offenses who already have a bunch of TPE, going from 98 to 100 speed, I don't know that gets you another touchdown a game, or that gets you another 50 yards a game. That maybe gets you another 2 yards a game or 5 yards a game, but nothing quite game breaking in any sense there. And that's one of the most important stats. You know, if you look at tertiary things like agility, tackle, some of the blocking stats sometimes, intelligence, things like that, where it doesn't necessarily impact your player as much. That's really where all these high TPE guys are going, because they maxed their important stats and are now maxing their dump stats so that they can, you know, save up for regression.
That's true. It's just me. I always feel like, I mean, across all the leagues I've been in, I've been offense, I've been defense. I prefer offense just because I feel like I get more of a return on my time in. You know, you could do everything right, but in theory, if you have a perfect defensive game, you get no stats because you did your job and they didn't get anything. And
Right.
It just feels kind of like,
Well, you know, it's hard to say. But I think this season's going to be I think this season's going to be a fun one of the more fun ones in a while.
Oh, definitely.
Because we have some totally different you know, we had a team that just won the Ultimates is now favored to be in last place in possibly the league. We have a team that just went 1-13, looking at being one of the powerhouses in the league and possibly making a push for the Ultimates. Like, you can't 180 more than that. And that makes me excited for the rest of the league, or for the rest of the season at the very least. And it's really nice being in a locker room with a whole bunch more activity now. I don't know what the other locker rooms are. I mean, straight up, I've been in 2 locker rooms in my entire time here in the league. The Sabercats, because I was drafted there first in the first season and stayed there until I left the league for a while. And then the Coyotes for, you know, the one season of DSFL I did. And
yeah, I was gonna say, for me, I've been in a handful. I've got the Yellowknife Wraiths. I've got Coyotes, because, you know, that's where I want DSFL, and I have Sabercats. And for some reason, I've been invited into the New Orleans, the second line room.
But I mean, it's amazing the difference. And this is, I mean, somewhat unrelated, super weird tangent I went on, and I'm sorry about that. But it is quite amazing how much of an impact being in an active locker room can have on a team. You know, when it's just a handful of guys and a bunch of bots, you know, you don't really find the want to go out and test a whole bunch, or test them a whole bunch, or to put in the extra effort to get all the TPE you can, or you know, there's just little things that add up really, really fast. And you can have a losing culture set in to a franchise if their locker room just isn't active the way it should be. So I don't know. I'm not saying the standings are an indication of locker room activity by any means, but we can see that
there's at least there's a loose core.
Activity breeds success, and
exactly.
And you need one to have the other. It's hard to, you could argue it was the most possible activity, but you know, the Outlaws at the beginning of the league were incredibly active, except they weren't. It was a handful of guys in a room full of fakes. Yeah. But I guess you could argue that was even more extra activity. But
don't you dare impugn the name of Tim Pest. He was an excellent agent.
Tim Pest is a national goddamn treasure, and I will fight anybody who says otherwise. He spoke so many languages.
He spoke as many languages as he could count.
He spoke as many languages as could make up. I do love though. He's great. He's in our locker room now too, and that's
nice.
I'm glad we took the flyer on him. And I'm glad that I called it in the draft chat.
Even better, we could To make sure he stays on the straight and narrow, I believe we installed him with a shot collar, and every time he does something bad, the GM just gives him a little zap.
Maybe, I don't know. I think he's out of the country right now, so he's recruiting some new bots, some new multis. Ur's gonna listen to this and he's gonna get mad at me, and I just don't care right now. But going back, let's take a look at the outlook for. Well, since we're both Sabercats, we'll do the Sabercats. If I bring some people from other teams on, we'll talk about their teams a little bit more. And obviously, I was like having people on, so if you want to come on, please talk to me, message me, whatever. So looking at us, our next game up. Let's just look at. We'll take our first week here, games 1 through 4.
Okay.
So game 1, we've won obviously against the New Orleans second line. Next, we're at Arizona.
That's always a tough one, even if they are a rougher team.
I don't know. I don't know. I see us winning it. I think it'll be close.
Yeah, I'm going to homer it as well. Yes, but
obviously there's a chance they upset, because whenever you're at home, you always have like. So for those of you who don't know, because I do have the sim and I have done some stuff, and obviously I got hired on as assistant simmer and will be helping taking over those duties starting next season. I'll probably be the one streaming mostly, but regardless of that, I do have a good chunk of experience with the sim. And if you don't know, when you are the home team, you always have at least a 25% chance of winning. If you sim 4 times in a row, one of those will end up being a win. Almost 100%. Like, it's different from like flipping a coin, pure random chance, where, there's always the possibility of you flipping 10 heads in a row. It legitimately, pretty much 1 in every 4, you'll get a win. And it'll be the weirdest win. It'll be super close, but you'll get a win. So looking at that, I think we're pretty solid here as far as how things go. I think Arizona is a team with a quarterback who can accomplish things, obviously. They have a good running back stable between Asibi and Shady. Those guys are one of the better running back duos in the league right now. They're getting equal rushing time. I think they're running a committee there. So those guys are the 1-2 punch of that. They did a great job last week, despite their team losing. You had 21 carries for Shady for 107 yards, 5.1 average, 12 carries for 63, 5.2 average for Asibi. And Shady obviously got the touchdown. Like I said, those are fluke stats, so that doesn't really matter. But, they're averaging 5 yards a carry, which is absolutely insane. I don't know that they keep that up. I don't know.
Probably not.
Maybe, assuming not. But as far as rushing goes, they're right up there. Arizona as a team has the best rushing attack in the league. Whereas as receiving, they have one of the worst in the league. So, which is surprising given that they were down in their game. Usually the team that's behind will throw more.
Jeez, I just saw this. Baltimore Hawks, 6 rushing touchdowns.
Yes. Baltimore Hawks had 6
Holy
rushing touchdowns.
Fuck.
Oh, now remember that the Baltimore Hawks had 3 chances where they got the ball on the 1-yard line.
Still, that's ridiculous.
Well, yes, it is, but Owen Taylor 1-yard rush, Owen Taylor 1-yard rush, Antonio Summer 1-yard rush. All 3 of those were 1-yard line, sitting on the 1-yard line after the second Owen Taylor and the first Antonio Summer were both after interceptions that ended at the goal line. So obviously you rush goal line situations. It's just, it's
personal note to the Baltimore defense: if you want those pick sixes, you got to lift your feet up so they can't shoestring you at the 1. Either that, or we'll be hearing in weeks to come that it's an unfair advantage. They use textured paint and they tripped on the hash marks.
Now if we look at it, Summers averaging 5.7 yards per carry. and Owen Taylor is averaging 4.5, but the Liberty just got absolutely manhandled on defense and on offense. I mean, it was a rough game for them, let's be honest. So I don't know that we can use the 5-point. I believe Owen Taylor and Antonio Summer come back down to earth here next game, especially because the Hawks play the Yeti next. They might not come crashing down to earth as much as I think. The Yeti got blown out by the Otters, but the Otters are scary on offense this year. Showbiz is...
Excuse me, I believe they're scary on offense every year.
Yes, they are. They always have. The Otters...
Something's in that water over there.
Man, if the Otters are known for one thing, it is a terrifying passing attack. And nothing says that more than a quarterback who throws for an almost perfect rating and only didn't get perfect because he couldn't throw for enough yards.
I think it's completion percentage, 27 out of 36.
That might affect it too. I mean, I know that affects it too, but I know you need X amount of yards per reception to have a...
He had almost 400 yards. I think that's pretty darn good.
Right, but the 10.5, I think you need like a 12 for perfect, and you need a higher completion percentage. It's not an amazing
handful
metric,
of things, yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. He went fucking off, and that is a terrifying thing. But so back to looking at our record. So Outlaws, I'm not penciling that in 100% as a win, but I'm 75% of the way there because obviously they always have that 25% chance. But I think it looks pretty good for us. I think the odds are in our favor there. At the Illinois Wraiths, about the same. I see those two, like I said earlier, I see those two teams as kind of like two sides of the same coin. Looking into stuff, like we saw their game was the closest there. Their two quarterbacks are relatively equally matched up as far as their stats go, but also I think even as far as their TBE goes. I have not looked too far into that, so don't quote me on that. I don't want to hear Colby and who's it, McCormick? Is that my school McCormick who's doing that, or is that Infinite MPG? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter who's playing it. It doesn't matter who's out there. I just don't want them calling me out and going, "How dare you? How dare you?" These are my hot takes. I'm Stephen A. Smithing this bitch. I'm not black, so I'm Colin Cowarding this bitch.
You say that, and people come up and do that anyway.
Whatever. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it no matter what. So what do I?
Here's my hot take for the year.
All right.
There will be at least one tie this season. I'm not saying who. I'm saying there's gonna be a tie this season.
I hope so. I don't know if we've had a tie in a while.
Yeah, nothing to base it on. I'm just saying it is.
No, that's fine. All right, so those two. Now, Orange County Otters, that one is going to be scary. Luckily, we play them at home first. But that'll be a true test. They're seen as having a really good defense as well. Otters, stat-wise, are in the top half of the league, but they also obliterated time of possession, I believe. No. That was equal. I misspoke. So that defense is going to show up, and that's going to be a good game. I think that's going to be game of the week, if anything, right there. And hopefully, at some point, I get to go back to doing play-by-play and stuff. And
I would love that. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'd say there's a good half of the league who wasn't around to experience that. And of the 7 people who listen to this podcast, I'm sure all of them were, but it was something a lot of fun. I feel like it got activity up in the league, at least a good chunk. A couple people didn't like it because it went slower, but it's a once a week kind of thing.
Yeah, for important games.
Just for a big, just pick a game of the week and do it. Yeah. And there's a few of them that could very, very easily be games of the week, as it were.
Oh, definitely.
So week 2, week 3, week 4. So every 4 weeks we'd pick one, but Otter Sabercats is going to be the one to watch week 4. Week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8. Wraiths Outlaws is back up again. Liberty Hawks have their rematch. Week 8 is literally rematch week. Huh. It's Otters Yeti, Liberty Hawks, Wraiths Outlaws, Sabercats second line. Just flip home field advantage. So that'll be an interesting one just as a whole for all of week 8. Then week 12 happened. Week 12 would be the next one to look at. I would say the match of the week there is, well, it's hard to predict at this point because right now we have 1 week to go on. The preseason wasn't a lot to go on because stuff wasn't entered in correctly, strats weren't put in, all that kind of stuff. But regardless, so looking into this, week 2 is coming up. Make some predictions for week 2 here.
Well, let's see. Let me pull up my predictions in the prediction thing.
Oh, I haven't even done it yet. Yeah, you can pull up your predictions here. So we've got Liberty at Otters, Hawks at Yeti, Wraiths at second line, and Sabercats at Outlaws. Obviously, we already talked Sabercats at Outlaws. I penciled that one in for a win for us. I think that's the smart money on that one. Obviously, there's always a chance for an upset, but I think that's where the smart money goes. Liberty at Otters. I think Otters run away with that one. That's a pretty easy one. Hawks at Yeti.
I got Yeti.
I don't think the Hawks repeat performance, but I think they're stronger than we thought they were. So I'm going to take Hawks on that one. You're going to take Yeti.
Like I said, I've been part of this league for a while, as you know, and it honestly feels like it's more than that 25% chance. I swear to God, sometimes.
I promise you, sometimes it is. Depends on how even the match is. But in a blowout situation, like if the Otters this year, with what they have up there, played the Sabercats last year or the Liberty the year before. If
say what about Las Vegas?
Or Las Vegas. Any of the 0-14 teams, all of them actually did have, despite getting blown out, a 1 in 4 chance of winning every home game they had, even in the blowouts. It does happen. It's just, it is much harder to come across, especially because the way we do the sims is we sim it once. We don't sim it 5 times. We don't sim it 10 times. We don't do anything like that. You get 1 shot to beat them. If you have a 1 in 4 shot, but you better make the most of that shot.
That is actually an interesting thing. Have we ever thought about doing it like, the game is simmed 5 times?
Like a best of?
Yeah.
Yes, but that would be dumb. Not just, that's a bad explanation. The reason it gets vetoed and the reason it should be vetoed is because just like in the real NFL, it is any given Sunday.
Yes, but the real NFL doesn't have, run the clock when you're losing, call a timeout, run it again, call a timeout.
I know. But because everybody plays by those same rules, every team gets equally fucked. It would be one thing if one team was always getting screwed by bad decisions, but every team gets screwed by bad decisions. Do you remember the freaking corner blitzes? I don't.
I still think there could have been a way for us to fix that, like have the safeties go on the deep zones and the linebackers hit the hook zones as opposed to crossing and whatever.
But so there's multiple issues with it. So if you listen to this podcast and you weren't around for it, like I said, there's not many of you listening to this. So for the 1 or 2 of you who don't know what this is, because I'm assuming the most of the rest of you are either my teammates or people who have been listening to this for a while. Back a few seasons from the start of the game, it was like this, but starting a few seasons ago, oh, please don't do this. Sorry, my computer is threatening to update on me, and I'm not going to let it do it. So there was a corner blitz, which is a tactic in the NFL, which is fine, except the game didn't understand quite how to do it. It had 5 or 6 plays stored up in it where it would call a corner blitz, but it would put a linebacker into man coverage against a wide receiver, which would put them into a deep coverage, and the safety would swap with the linebacker. It was weird, but essentially what it meant was anytime the corner blitzed, it was a guaranteed completion to the wide receiver that was there.
Not necessarily, because I remember a couple times.
A couple times the cornerback got sacked. Yes.
Basically, if they could get pressure on the quarterback.
It turns out when your defense is filled with bots who are stacked to the max on stats, not bots, multis who are stacked to the max on stats, they can get the sack every once in a while.
If you can get to the quarterback, yes. Otherwise, you were screwed.
For the majority of the league, if you saw the corner start charging in, you knew there was at least a 20-yard completion coming in, and most of the time it was more. It was insane, and the problem was of the way the play was coded. Not coded, but drawn up. So you can actually input custom plays into the sim. We don't do that because that would be an extreme disadvantage for anybody who doesn't know football or anybody who can just sit there and scheme up the cheesiest fucking plays. You could cheese every single play of the game if you really wanted to. You could set up your offense so that it runs trick plays nonstop, and there'd be no way to account for it on the other end. It makes it very competitive in their leagues that they set up online, but not in our league. So the only way to fix it would be to remap those plays so that the safety was the one who provided coverage instead of the linebacker. The problem was you had to find that play in a list of thousands. So it would have required so much effort. I think they just ended up removing the plays instead of remapping them because it still didn't quite ever work properly. So needless to say, was there a way that it could have worked? Sure. But it was just easier to get rid of them. Especially because if you mapped it wrong, you could potentially make things worse or provide an insane amount of advantage to the defense. So it just made more sense to just get rid of them. I'm very okay with that decision. I wasn't part of it, but I'm glad to see they're gone. So anyway, week 2 here. Otters versus I think we already covered all of them. Wraiths versus second line is the last one.
I've got the Wraiths.
I've got that one as a toss-up, but I would say Wraiths probably take it. I think smart money's on Wraiths.
A toss-up, eh? It sounds like a perfect thing for a tie.
I would love it to see that a tie, just because ties are fun. Chaos is fun. All right, week 3, we've got Outlaws at Yeti, second line at Liberty, Otters at Hawks, Sabercats at Wraiths. We already know what we chose for Sabercats at Wraiths. I took the Sabercats. I said that's what probably the smart money's on, but always that chance that the Wraiths win. Outlaws at Yeti could be a fun one. I want to see how the Yeti do against the Hawks first before I even make a prediction on that in my prediction thread.
I'm sticking with the home field Yeti.
Sticking with home field? Yeah, that's probably a good choice. We'll see. I think that'll be one of the more interesting games of the week. Second line Liberty. I'm going to take Liberty every day on that one.
Yep.
Especially because they got home team. Hawks Otters will be interesting too.
I think I have the Hawks.
I'm going to take the Otters on that one. I think they're just so much of a powerhouse. They're just going to run rampant through them. But we'll see. The Hawks are a better team than we expected, but it could go either way. Then week 4, obviously, game of the week is going to be Otters Sabercats. That'll be a fun one. Liberty at Outlaws.
I've got the Outlaws.
I think I would too. I'm still going to hold judgment on those 2 weeks on my actual prediction threads, but Outlaws is probably a solid bet, especially with home team advantage. Yeti at second line. I'm probably going to take Yeti.
I took second line there.
Okay, you're going with the home team the whole time.
Pretty much, yeah.
And Wraiths at Hawks. I'm going to take Hawks.
I got Hawks as well.
I don't know how those. Obviously, we don't know how those will actually play out, but
or
based
do
on
we?
What we're seeing here, no, we don't. Based on what we're seeing here, it's looking like the leaders of the ASFC is going to be Sabercats and Otters duking it out for that top position, with the Otters probably having the edge. And on the NSFC sides, it's looking like, so I think everybody was predicting Liberty Hawks with the possibility that Yeti throw themselves into the mix, but I think we haven't seen enough yet to make any kind of prediction. I think the Hawks are going to be in it, but outside of them, it's kind of a toss-up. The NSFC is a little more parity. Actually, this season is shaking out very, very similar to the actual NFL this year, with the
Go Bears.
Yeah, all right. With the ASFC being like the AFC, where there's some very clear-cut front runners, and then everybody else just kind of sucks. And then there's the NSFC, which is like the NFC, where there's a whole big toss-up between a whole bunch of... There's like maybe a couple of leaders, but everybody else is kind of in it. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the In the Hunt from last weekend's football games. I don't know how much you watched the NFL, but it was like, so the Saints have clinched, and the Bears have clinched, and everybody else is in the hunt. Like, it was actually kind of insane. It was
it's like Saints, Bears, and Rams are in.
Yeah,
seeding still be determined, and then it's like, I mean, I know this past week cut down a lot of them, but going into this past week in the NFL, it was something like 8 teams still had a chance. I want to say, and I know close to home for you, the Lions were still in it.
Yeah, they were. And
they could have theoretically made it in at 8-8.
Yes, they could have. And there's actually a bunch of teams that could have made it in at 8-8. But that's obviously changed at this point. But that's what we're looking at here. We got the ASFC is pretty set. The Outlaws could make some kind of a play, but I think they're still about a year or a season, maybe 2 seasons out from being the dominant force that they could be, because they have a whole bunch of talent there. They just have a whole bunch of rookies. So once those guys start developing, full on developing, we'll be pretty set as far as things go with them. And then second line's got to rebuild for a while here. They have a bunch of needs. They had a bunch of retires. They're going to have to take some time and rethink that roster. And then on the NSFC side, we've got the Hawks are relatively most of the same team they've had, but with some pretty big regressions hitting, and they're going to lose a couple of guys in the next couple of years. I think this is their last push for the short term to get to the Ultimates. I think this is the year they go for it, because they lose a couple of big names next season to full on regression and retirement. And then we've got the second line, or not the second, the Liberty, who are the up and comers there. I think they need probably next season and the season after would be their push time. Similar to the Outlaws, where they've got a bunch of young talent, but they really, really do have to kind of develop it more and get a play style in place where they know their identity. Because right now, their identity is rush with Brown as much as we can so that Falcone doesn't have to throw as much, because she is a liability in passing right now. That's not to say the quarterback won't be good in the future. That's not to say they're bad right now, but if you look at it, obviously that's a liability.
This kind of points towards at least something at least for me, because I used to play as the quarterback. I'm noticing a bunch of different builds, but I always felt in these types of leagues, the best build is the not template. So I'm saying something, but I'm not meaning the template as a game manager, not the game manager template. I was a pocket quarterback, but up your intelligence, up your accuracy. Get it to the point where you're not going to throw interceptions first.
And you know where that comes from, right? It actually comes from throw arm strength and throw power and throw accuracy affects it more than intelligence, believe it or not. Really? Intelligence helps you avoid sacks more, helps you throw away the ball, and helps make better decisions. But it actually,
because when I played, I felt
your power and accuracy.
I felt strength got me, sacked less often.
Yes, intelligence helps you decide to throw the ball away more. That's what I mean. Keeping your arm strength and your throw power and throw accuracy relatively even as you raise them up actually is one of the best ways to avoid.
Yeah, that's what I did. I think I got them both to like 85. And then I started
essentially
pumping the accuracy
if you
like 90 something.
Yeah, essentially if you crank your throw power before you crank your accuracy, you become a gunslinger and you go wild.
DeMarcus Russell.
Yeah, and you'll throw a bunch of interceptions and a bunch of touchdowns, but if you crank your accuracy and before you crank your throw power, you won't throw
you Chad
hard
Pennington
enough.
It.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that exactly, but
okay.
Basically,
as a more modern one, late Broncos Peyton Manning.
No, not late Broncos Peyton Manning.
He had like no arm strength left. At the
I
end
know,
there.
but he that's real life. We're talking about the sim. In the sim, the issue is if you have no arm strength and a whole bunch of accuracy, you won't throw hard enough to get to players, and you'll get picked off by like undercutting routes in a weird way. Is the best way to explain it. There's actually no real reason, but basically it treats it like you underthrow every ball. So instead of you putting it in an intentional spot, like throwing your receiver open all the time when they've got low separation and on a short out, you just throw the ball casually to everybody. It goes better, but it gets picked off just as the game treats that uneven as like pick off central, and I don't know why it does that, but it does. And I'm sure I'll get refuted in some point by this, but that's what I had observed in some of my testing. But yeah, so I think once Liberty have their quarterback have some more balanced stats to get stuff out better, and have their wide receivers develop a bit more. I mean, I know they've got a star wide receiver, but right now obviously the thing to do is just hand it off to Brown 100 times a game, because that's really the only option.
Go early 1900s football. Forward pass hasn't been invented yet. You run everything.
Yeah. Like, if I'm looking at it, they've got Von Matt and Hasselhoff, and they combined for like 100 yards. And whereas Vincent Valentine had 122 on his own. That's what you got to look at, is that kind of stuff. That idea of them just getting, because Von Matt is an up and comer. I see him doing well soon. Like he should be starting to turn it up. He had a 20-yard catch, which is pretty good. And Hasselhoff should be right up there fine too. But when you've got a running back like Brown, you may as well handle it. He got the ball 25 times for 105 yards. Now he had a fumble, but
I mean that's going to happen here and there.
But yeah, you can pound the rock with it. It's what San Diego did, or yes, San Jose did last year with me. You hand the ball off 30 or 40 times a game, so that your interception-prone quarterback doesn't throw interceptions and you don't turn the ball over. And once the sim moved them to that, you could see they started doing better, because like a whole bunch of their things were pass incomplete, pass incomplete, pass incomplete, pass incomplete. So they just started like their touchdown, their first touchdown of the game came after like 6 or 7 rushes from Brown, and then some nice completions from Falcone, and then their next one came from almost all rushes by Brown. And then their next one came from like all rushes by Brown. Like, so, you know what I mean? You have to, they have to rush right now in order to keep those hopes alive.
Limit opposing teams.
Yeah. Just control the clock, put it in the reliable hands that you've got, and work on it. But, 2 years from now, Falcone's going to have all the stats he needs to go and do some legitimate QBing hero, Drew Brees, whatever you want to call it. Go out there and sling it with the rest of them. Assuming their wide receivers are still active, which I'm assuming they are. I haven't looked into that much. But assuming they're still active, they'll continue improving, and they'll be up there having the stats to compete with everybody else. Obviously, you've always got Brown as a safety valve, and it's not like they don't have I don't know what their tight end situation is like as much, but also I'm assuming that their GM is hopefully experimenting with different builds on offensive linemen. That can affect things similarly, but I, from what I understand, almost everybody uses the same build anymore. It kind of keeps things equal, I guess. But
yeah, that's kind of why. I mean, I built speed. I put speed on at the team's request, but that's what I was trying to do with my running. Well, power back. I was going to say like, I don't care if it takes me 20 minutes to run the 40-yard dash. If I'm this strong, you're just going to bounce. Yeah, you catch up to me. I bowl you over. You get up, you catch up to me. I bowl you over again.
Sounds great.
What was my idea?
Yeah, it sounds great in theory, except that's just not how the sim works, and that's why we told you to put speed in.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
The most important stat in the sim, and it's the only one that really... And then endurance, and then you go into your specialized stuff. But yeah, it turns out if you max those two first, your character will be insane no matter what. They can be shit in almost everything else. They'll still do great. Unless you're a running back trying to catch passes, then hands actually do matter. But, I mean, one of the best receivers in the league forever was Josh Gardner, and he just maxed speed and then endurance and didn't touch his hands forever.
The old Oakland Raiders way of doing things. They don't even have football skills. They can run fast.
Hey, it works sometimes. All right, so, well, I hope something fruitful came from that discussion for somebody. I know there's a lot of just kind of but it's hard to do stuff right now. I'm not gonna lie, part of this is because I need money. But you know, we're in week one. Hopefully, I can get some more guests on and we can have some more fun. I'd love to have. I've got some more guys coming on from San Jose, but I know not everybody cares about San Jose, so please
maybe rotate it around.
Yeah, I mean we'll see what's going on, but if you do want to come on, please let me know. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people from the league. It's pretty chill here. I don't like to be an asshole if I can help it. I am an asshole, but I try not to be sometimes. But I know if the more people come on from other teams, the more interesting it is for other teams. I'm glad to see there's other podcasts out there, and I'm hoping people will check those out as well. And hopefully, if you come on, you'll listen. It's really what it is. Also, if you want to hear that play-by-play, please let the league know. Because it is a lot of fun for me. If you've listened to the draft, you know I get drunk a lot. I'm not an alcoholic, but I pretend to be.
He's on his way.
I'm getting there. I'm working on it. I just don't go to meetings. But it's fun. It's way more laid back. You get to do the play-by-play. I usually bring on a guest commentator. It was Aenir sometimes. It was Colby sometimes. It was Jiggly sometimes. I'll see if I can get other people on. It's a good time for me, and hopefully it's enjoyable for you. But like I said, come on, join me. Hopefully enjoyed this, and message me.
I hope
on my
to be
podcast.
back.
Pay me money.
I hope to be back.
Thank you from Aenir for coming on, and I think my next one up is either going to be Caltroit Red Flames, or
Muford.
No, not Muford. I think was scheduled to be on there, and either Keegan. I think it might have been Keegan. Was going to join on, but until next time, guys. Thanks for listening, and I will see you around.